Woo! What up, y'all? Welcome back. Today we're talking about the Sony Zv1 versus the Canon M50 Mark II. Which one is best for YouTube, content creation, live streaming, vlogging? Let's get into it. So when comparing these two cameras, I'm actually going to take it section by section and break down a winner of each one, and then stay till the end for my overall winner on what is the best camera and which one you guys should buy. First of all, I'm going to talk about photography. So for photography, it's actually, they both do it really well. And I know these cameras aren't marketed as photography first cameras. They're really just more video centric, content creation type cameras. But I think every camera should be able to take good photos. And especially that I'm kind of based in photography first, I actually want to look at this. And for that, my winner is the M50 Mark II. I think the sensor is superior than the Zv1, and that's because it's a crop size versus a 1-inch point and shoot sensor. I also think the color science coming out of Canon is better. I like it more. And just the photos that are coming out of this are really beautiful. Pair that with the fact that it is an interchangeable lens system and you're able to get the photos you want. You just have more control. You can go really wide, you can go ultra wide, you can go zoom, you can go telephoto, you can get a crispy, really high quality prime lens on here. And I'm a prime lens shooter. So for that, overall, I would say the Canon M50 Mark II is better for photography. I know most of you guys are not watching this video for photography, so let's get right into video and content creation. I'm gonna start with 4K video. Which one is a better 4K video shooter? And it's not even close. It's the Sony Zv1. The Canon M50 shoots trash 4K video. For more on that and the reasons behind that, check out my full review on the M50 Mark II. The Sony Zv1 shoots phenomenal 4K video. Real-time eye tracking autofocus, their new Sony color science, beautiful 24-70 equivalent 1.8 to 2.8 lens, fully articulating flip out screen, able to shoot some slow motion. This camera just does 4K really well and puts out really nice video quality. It's a clear-cut winner. If you shoot 4K, get the Sony Zv1, that is the winner there. Now, a more realistic comparison is talking about 1080p video. And whew, that is a real battle. That's where this thing really heats up. Let's take it one by one. Let's talk about vlogging first, because I think a lot of you guys are vloggers and you're debating between the two. For vlogging, this camera in 1080p does everything perfect. It has everything you need. Flip out, fully articulating touchscreen with a built-in record button, built-in hot shoe on top for external audio with a built-in mic jack, ability to get really wide shots that are really nice with dual pixel autofocus, so you never have to worry about autofocus. Your eye will always be in focus. And even the kit lens at 15 gets you a nice wide stabilized shot, even if you're using digital stabilization. So the M50 Mark II does everything really good for vlogging, and it does it in a really small package. I really love it, and overall I'd say if you're shooting 1080p, this is probably the perfect vlogging camera. But there are some things that the Zv1 does better. First of all, external audio. So the audio on the Zv1, the built-in mic is by far the best built-in mics I've ever used on a camera. They're just phenomenal. Sony did an excellent job engineering these, and it comes with a built-in wind muff, so you never have to worry about that. What is that? I was trying to do wind noise. You never have to worry about that really loud staticky wind noise. So if you're at the beach or something and you're on the M50 Mark II, you're gonna have to have an external mic with a big external wind muff on there plugged in, and it's gonna be a bulky system overall. Whereas the Zv1, you don't need anything. You need the wind muff that comes along with it plugged in, flip out your screen, and you're good to go, and you're gonna get really nice audio. Now you are gonna have to have it at arm's length, and then it comes into the issue of the Zv1 being too tight for vlogging. And that's the biggest complaint of the Zv1 is it's a 24-70 fixed lens, so is the 24 wide enough for you? There are some really good options that I've seen with a wide angle adapter from Ulanzi. I've linked it below, and it does work well, but then you do have a stick-on external lens that, you know, can be bulky and cumbersome. I'm out at another park testing the Zv1 for a vlogging test, and there's a few features that right off the bat I like about the Zv1 that I don't like, actually that are just missing on the M50 Mark II. Number one, right now it's a somewhat bright day. It's a little bit cloudy, but you can see it's a somewhat bright day, and actually on this camera I have built-in ND filters, meaning it's kind of like sunglasses that go over the lens and just darken it up so that I can keep my shutter at 1/50. And ND filters are really nice to have, so I really like that this camera has it. In addition, I also have the ability to put on a wind muff. So right now it's really windy out here and I don't have an external mic, but I do have the built-in wind muff, so I don't have to worry about the wind noise at all. So that's another thing that I really like. I'll take the wind muff off right now and I'll show you what it sounds like. All right, so this is the ZV1 without the built-in wind muff, and I really like this little thing. It's engineered really great because it's built for the camera, so it just slides in on the hot shoe and then you don't need to worry about wind noise. But you can hear right now with the wind muff off that you're probably catching a decent amount of wind noise, and I just find that so annoying, so I'm gonna put the wind muff back on. All right, so I got the wind muff back on now, and you can see I'm actually a little bit wider of a shot. That's actually because I turned steady shot off completely. So this is steady shot off. I'm gonna walk a little bit. And you can see, this is just me just handhelding, extending it out. You can see it's a little bit shaky. I'm not trying to walk smoothly at all. I'm really just trying to walk completely normal to give you guys a sense of what it looks like with steady shot off. Now let's put steady shot on and you'll see that it will actually punch in a little bit with steady shot on. Let's turn that on. All right, now this is with steady shot on. This is just standard steady shot, so it's not active. You can see it punches in a little bit, but it does a decent job. I'm gonna start walking a little bit and show you guys. This is probably what I would vlog on the most because it doesn't punch in too much, but it still does a decent job steadying out my walking shots a little bit. So this is with steady shot standard. All right, so this is with steady shot active, and you can see that it punches in a little bit more. So with this 24-70 lens, the 24 really becomes more like a 30 with steady shot active. Now I do like the steady shot, how steady and smooth it is, but it does punch in a little bit too much for my liking for vlogging. So I usually do not vlog with this setting on. I usually go steady shot standard. So let's go back to that, and let's also just wrap up this vlogging test. So I want to show you another feature that the ZV1 has that I actually think is really cool. It's called the defocus background button. It's set to custom button 1 standard, and you just press that button and boom, it makes that background blurry by changing all your settings. So you don't have to worry about a low f-stop and getting your shutter speed right. You just hit that button and it goes clear, defocused, clear, defocus. I actually think this is really cool for beginning videographers or beginning vloggers or people that don't really want to have to learn or worry about settings. The ZV1 just makes it nice and easy to get that nice blurry, oh, that's clear. Now it's blurry. That nice blurry. Another thing that's really cool about the ZV1 is they've programmed a lot of the modes to focus on the face. So they expose for the face and not the whole scene. It's actually really nice for vloggers because then you don't really need to worry so much about your face being in correct exposure when you're in automatic modes. You can just point your camera, shoot away, tell your story, and you'll know that your face is in focus and always correctly exposed, not too dark or too light. What up, y'all? This is the vlogging test for the Canon M50 Mark II. Of course, I am shooting 1080p. I do have an external Movo mic with the windscreen on that. I'm shooting just on the kit lens, so I'm shooting all the way out at 15 millimeters, and I'm at f4 right now. I just have the ISO on auto, and I keep the shutter speed at double the frame rate. So you can see what this looks like. It's a nice wide shot. I do have it on a little Jovi tripod, but it's a nice wide angle shot, and it's good. It's, you know, I have stabilization on right now. Overall, it does everything very automated, very well. So I don't have to think much with this setup. I plug it in, I turn on, and I start firing away. So it just gives me everything I need in a nice convenient package, and I do like. All right, so some things I'm noticing right off the bat with the M50 Mark II. When I'm vlogging with this in low light settings, like right now I'm at sunset and the sun's starting to set and I'm in the shadows. This camera just got better low light performance overall, so I'm seeing less grain in the shadows. I'm seeing a little bit more dynamic range, so I'm not blowing out the highlights. And overall, I can just tell that this sensor is a little bit better than the ZV1. Now that's probably just because it's a crop size sensor as opposed to a 1-inch sensor on the ZV1, but I am noticing a difference and I do like it. Now in terms of image stabilization, I say they're pretty comparable. I don't notice much of a difference between the two. Both are digitally image stabilized, and I think they both do just an okay job. It's nothing that's gonna blow me out of the water, and I'm certainly not gonna be able to run with this thing and not get some significant shake. But I think for just normal vlogging and like walking type situations like this, it does a good job. Both of them do a good job, so I'd always keep digital image stabilization on. All right, so this is just the onboard mic of the M50 Mark II with no external audio at all. So you're probably picking up a little bit of wind noise. It's not super windy out here right now, but you're probably getting a little bit of wind noise, but it probably sounds a whole heck of a lot worse than it does with the Movo. So as you can tell, I would say always have external audio on the M50 Mark II. I just don't think the in-body audio is good enough. One thing I'm noticing out of the M50 that I don't really like is the auto exposure, and I think the ZV1 does a better job of exposing the face. It has that technology where it's built specifically for vloggers, so it's always noticing to expose expose for the face, whereas the M50 Mark II is going to expose the center weighted image or expose the image as a whole, whatever your settings are set up. And I just think if you have auto settings on, which most likely you should as a vlogger, you don't want to have to worry about all that. I think the ZV1 does a better job keeping what's important in exposed properly. So that is me. That's my face is what's most important for exposure, and yours too. See, like right here, this is all kind of blown out like crazy. The ZV1 wouldn't do that, wouldn't be shifting around as much. I think the M52 shifts its exposure around a lot more than the ZV1 because it's weighting the whole image as a whole as opposed to just the face, keeping it exposed. So something I don't like about the M50 Mark II. All right, so another thing I'm noticing on the M50 Mark II that I actually don't like is the weight. I'm noticing a significant difference between this and the ZV1. Now, it's not that this camera is significantly heavier, it's really not that bad. It's still a pretty small body, but do have to put on a bigger Joby GorillaPod on this, and with the added weight of the external lens and the external mic, it just starts adding up. And when testing them back to back, you really notice a difference. Now, will I notice that if I just had the M50 Mark II without the ZV1? I don't know, but I do really like the fact that the ZV1 is so small, so light, and just comfortable to carry at all times, and I never have to worry about it, and I don't get fatigued at all. So that's a point for the ZV1. All right, up next, I'm gonna throw this into 4K so you guys get an idea of what that looks like. Ugh, I hate this. All right, so I'm holding at the exact same distance. You can see how punched in. It looks terrible. It's completely unusable, and the focus sucks on this thing because it just doesn't have the dual pixel autofocus. So overall, I would just say 4K is not even an option. Let's get back into 1080 quickly. All right, now we're back into 1080, and I am noticing one more thing that I like better on the ZV1. The ZV1 had built-in ND filters, and this one doesn't, so I do have to worry about in bright sunlight if I want to keep my shutter speed at twice over whatever the frame rate is. I'm not able to do that, or I'm gonna need external ND filters. So that is just another convenience thing that Sony has thought of, and they've put into the ZV1. So that's pretty much all I got for this vlogging test of the M50 Mark II. What do you guys think? How do you think this footage looks? I'm walking around. Tell me what you think. Let's get back to the review. But I would say this, if you don't mind plugging in an external mic with an external wind muff, my overall winner for vlogging in 1080p is the M50 Mark II. I still like the ZV1 for vlogging, especially in 4K, but if I'm going to pick between the two at 1080p, I'd say the M50 Mark II is my winner there. All right, let's talk about studio YouTube work, like if you're a beauty reviewer or a tech reviewer, or you're doing video type work like this. And if you're in your studio, I would say locked off shots, the Sony Zv1 is a clear-cut winner. That's because this camera was just designed to do exactly this. Sony had these YouTubers in mind, and it does a really good job. It's got a couple features I really love. First of all is the product showcase feature. And that's where you can hold up any type of product, and the Zv1 locks onto that really quickly and easily, and then will lock back onto your eye as soon as you move that product away. Just works really well, just geniusly engineered, and I really love it. Not to say the M50 Mark II does it poorly, I would just say the Zv1 does it better, does it easier, and it looks better. So overall, I'd say for this type of work, the Zv1 is your winner. Now let's talk about cinematic type video work. Maybe if you're shooting a short film or documentary type work, or you're shooting some product videography for a client or something like that. And even though you have more control with the M50 Mark II, you can change the lenses and get different shots, things like that. The Zv1 is still my winner here, and that's because it's got more professional video features. First of all, the 1.8 to 2.8 lens is still really, really good. I can get some really beautiful B-roll type shots. Slow motion is really nice. More importantly though, is Sony has really professional S-Log2, S-Log3, H-Log gamma video profiles for shooting nice flat video that I can color grade in post. The reason why I love that so much for anything cinematic is because I can pair up this video with my more high-end bodies like an A7S III or an A7R or A7 III, any of the big Sony bodies. I can pair that footage up and make it look almost identical coming out of the Zv1. Now you can't really do that with the M50 Mark II, and if you got some bigger Canon bodies that are more professional, it's something I'd really like to be able to do, and that would make this the ideal B camera, but because it doesn't have those flat picture profiles, you just can't do it. So for that, anything cinematic, I would say the Zv1 is my winner. And for B-roll type footage, this is also the Zv1 is my winner. All right, now let's talk about my overall winner for the head-to-head battle, the Zv1 versus the M52. And it's a split decision, but I do have answers for you. I would recommend the Sony Zv1. I like it better. It's my favorite camera out of the two, and I think it is a clear-cut winner. Mainly because all the features that are packed in it. It does 4K video really well, product showcase feature, background dehaze feature so you can get blurry backgrounds. It's easier to use, it's more efficient to use. You don't have to worry about settings. It's got better log profiles for a better B camera. Overall, it just does everything really, really well, and I love this camera. I'd highly recommend it. So it's my winner in this head-to-head battle. But it's not the camera I would recommend for about 90% of the people out there, because if this was the only camera I owned and I'm just starting out in YouTube and I'm saving up for my first camera, my higher quality video camera, I'd clearly recommend the M50 Mark II, and it actually wins this battle because if it's the only camera in my lineup, well, in photography, it crushes the Zv1. And for video, it actually gives me way more control because I can go wide angle for vlogging, or I can go tight for detailed shots. I could change out the lenses, and it's just way more versatile to be able to switch all the lenses around. And if I'm not shooting 4K, then I declare this the perfect camera. In 1080p and videography, this thing does everything superb. So I'd highly recommend the M50 Mark II, and barring 4K video, this is the camera I would recommend. And if it weren't for something I actually read, and that is that YouTube pushes their algorithm if you shoot in 4K video. It pushes 4K videos more than it pushes 1080p videos. Then I would shoot everything in 1080p. And if that were the case, then I would buy the M50 Mark II. But because I shoot everything in 4K, that's why I get the Sony Zv1. But I also have bigger cameras that I can shoot photos with. So you got to take into account that this is just my secondary or B type camera. So that's why I love this thing so much. That being said, it's a roundabout way to say it depends on what you're shooting and what your situation is. For most of you guys out there, this is my winner of this head-to-head battle, the Canon M50 Mark II. But I'd also choose the Zv1. I don't know, man. Tell me what you guys think. I would say this, they're both excellent cameras. You can't go wrong. The value is there for both of them. They both put out really, really great photos and videos. So I love both these cameras, and I currently own both of them because I bought both of these. Wasn't sponsored at all because I have no following and no one watches my videos. That being said, if you do want to purchase any of these, it would really help me out as a small-time YouTuber to use my links that I put in the description below. Also, just check out the links for, more specs and user reviews. I have all that in there. That's all I got for this video. If you liked it and I brought you some value, hit me with a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome videos. I appreciate you guys. Just get out there and start shooting. That's the most important thing. Skill over gear is my big belief. I appreciate you guys. Talk to you in the next one. Peace.